Zombie games are fascinating, disgusting, and awesome all at once, which in turn makes them irresistible. Whether you love getting up close and personal with makeshift melee weapons, or sending some undead brains flying with a shotgun, this list will focus more on pure zombie games, if you get what I mean. I'm Josh, welcome to HotFix Gaming. Today, let's talk about 10 must-play zombie games. In no particular order, let's start with number 10. Project Zomboid. Project Zomboid's old-school isometric pixel graphics show players what may very well be the most ambitious zombie apocalypse simulation ever created. And don't be fooled, this really is meant to be a simulation of what would happen to most survivors if the majority of their neighbours turned into zombies. There's no evac helicopter coming if you can survive long enough, or any other formal objectives, at least not in the main mode. Your death is inevitable, and what you do until then is up to you. But if you want to live more than a few days, I'd suggest building yourself a nice little fort, and maybe getting a farm going. You can only scavenge for so long before the food, or your luck, runs out. Project Zomboid is great to play alone or in multiplayer now, and I can only imagine how gripping it will be if the developers ever manage to complete their vision. Yes, it's still in early access. On the bright side, or not, I think many players who have tried this title had to sit down after it and reconsider whether they'd survive a zombie apocalypse or not. Number 9. Lollipop Chainsaw. Switching gears a bit from the very serious Project Zomboid game, Lollipop Chainsaw follows high school cheerleader and zombie hunter dissident Juliet Starling as she fights through the apocalypse. A hack-and-slash action as Juliet fights her way through hordes of zombies. Anything from melee attacks, dodges, high and low attacks with her chainsaw can be used against Juliet's foes. And it's all fun and games, as long as you don't peek under her skirt. Otherwise, your gamer friends will know what you do in your spare time. While many players have admitted that this was the first trophy they got in the game, a Reddit user has found one guy who actually didn't get it. Suffice to say, that's an even bigger flex than getting the platinum in Lollipop Chainsaw. And if you're thinking now of getting the game, then I've got some good news for you. A remake of Lollipop Chainsaw is due to launch in September. Developer Dragami Games has confirmed that the remake will leave the story unchanged, but focus on quality of life improvements and graphics, as well as adding some additional gameplay content. I wonder if they'll add that achievement again. Number 8. 7 Days to Die. A veteran in the zombie survival gaming scene, 7 Days to Die has finally released out of early access after more than 11 years of availability on Steam. To put it into perspective, this game is from that time when Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball was a charting hit and Obama was the US president. 7 Days to Die is a first-person zombie survival crafting game in a sandbox world designed to be destructible, while also giving you the ability to build anywhere. Its core tenets may sound almost dated now, but we're at the forefront of what was thought possible when it was first released in 2013. Whether it's still good is up to the individual, but the fans are rating it at about 83% positive in recent Steam reviews. 7. Days Gone. This Sony exclusive has an impressive open world that's almost like a post-apocalyptic playground for zombie enthusiasts. You let loose on those hordes as protagonist Deacon St. John with his rusty, trusty motorcycle, and you're free to find as many ways as possible to rebury the undead. While Days Gone was one of Sony's less celebrated exclusives from the PS4 era, it has managed to carve out a spot in the zombie game pantheon, mainly thanks to its horde sequences, which are a sight to behold. These encounters, which are 40 in total by the way, pit Deacon up against 500 freakers, the Days Gone term for zombies, at once in a heart-pumping trial of quick wit and even quicker reflexes. 6. Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2 really changed things for the better. This is literally a mile-a-minute gore-soaked zombie fest that you really can't miss. The mean streets of LA serve as the backdrop for Dead Island 2's bloody premise. You're stranded here with little chance of rescue, unless you fight your way through the shambling masses to alert the government. It's not quite as simple as that. It wouldn't be Dead Island otherwise, would it? Between hunkering down with newfound friends, crafting increasingly ambitious weapons that have the ability to quite literally melt zombies' flesh from the bone, and grappling with your deck of Slayer skill cards, this star-studded neighborhood simply isn't ready for the likes of you. If you're looking for a zombie game that's all killer, all thriller, you've found it. It's extremely hard not to have a great time playing Dead Island 2. Just make sure you have a strong stomach. And if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to let us know by hitting that like button. Number 5. Telltale Games The Walking Dead. While other games on this list tend to have you kind of do the same things, like chopping heads or blowing undead brains with a shotgun, this title changes the pace a bit by giving you a choice-based adventure that explores the human side of the zombie apocalypse. Instead of testing your aim, this adaptation tests your social decision-making and your nerves, because, damn, there's some messed up stuff that happens in this game. You play as Lee Everett, a convicted murderer who finds himself as the protector of an orphan little girl named Clementine. As you encounter other survivors, you'll end up making decisions down the line that have dire repercussions for your group members. But the worst part, yet simultaneously the best, is that you develop a connection with the characters in your party. So, when those bad things start to happen, you'll feel like it was your friend that you just saw get eaten alive, rather than a mere video game character. People will die, the unexpected will happen, and decisions will need to be made, and you'll just have to live with the consequences. 4. Dead Rising. While many bloggers and vloggers will rush to talk about Dead Rising 2 or maybe even 3, it feels like the first one in the series deserves a bit more recognition than its sequels. And you might think that maybe it's just nostalgia, but many players can attest to it. They have went back years after its release and played Dead Rising on PC, and it was just as amazing as it was on its first day. Sure, the controls are a bit clunky, maybe even a bit annoying, but where Dead Rising really wins points is with its plot and characters, which are way better than the sequels. I guess Dead Rising is the antithesis of the modern-day open-world action game. Where contemporary titles focus on player choice, Dead Rising sort of does the opposite. Progressing the main case requires you to be within a certain location at a specific time, otherwise it's game over. You can only save in certain places. Skills and upgrades are tied to player levels. The only decisions you can make comes in the form of optional boss encounters and deciding which survivors to save from this zombie-infested shopping center. Number 3. Left 4 Dead 2. Any list of the best possible zombie games ever would simply not be complete without Left 4 Dead 2. Valve's 2009 zombie horde shooter still holds up today as a quintessential zombie FPS, letting you fly solo or squad up with friends or strangers in a PvE mission to escape, survive, and let bullets rain down on the living dead. Navigating a series of smaller maps and combating wave after wave of zombies is the name of the game, including facing off with special zombie types like the explosive boomers and photosensitive witches. Unlike the slower gait of zombies in games like Resident Evil though, these undead don't walk, they absolutely run. Left 4 Dead 2 is the kind of chaotic free-for-all that doesn't come about often, so it's just as well that its servers are still very much alive and kicking so many years later. Have you played it yet? Number 2. Dying Light. In video games, it seems there are quite a few places overrun by zombies. Dying Light drops you onto an island swarming with the undead and tasks you with making your way through its open world by running and parkouring across its half-destroyed buildings and deserted vehicles. There are all sorts of missions to complete as you run around the game's island, working with different factions and trying to save survivors and procuring weapons to help you stay alive. But the best part of the game is undoubtedly its movement system, and the terror you face as night falls and the really frightening monsters come out. Dying Light combines some of Minecraft's greatest strengths, like scavenging for materials in an open world, item crafting, and scary monsters that come out at night, with a solid hand-to-hand combat, a fun and speedy traversal system, and grappling hooks, a match made in video game heaven. Before I move on to the number 1 entry, can you guess which game it is? Let me first mention 2 great zombie DLCs. Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare successfully remixed the original game with a spooky edge and supernatural threats that managed to keep players on their toes constantly. While the original game is a melancholic journey through the end of a cowboy era, Undead Nightmare is an intense fight for survival in an unforgiving world cursed by unseen forces. And of course, since I'm talking about zombie DLCs, I have to mention COD Zombies. This add-on initially appeared in Call of Duty World at War and became quickly a very popular mode. So popular that it returned in other installments too. Because what's better than a multiplayer shooter? A multiplayer shooter with zombies. Now moving on to the last game, it is obviously Resident Evil 2 Remake. In no small part, the popularity and straight-up terrifying nature of the Resident Evil games is responsible for the zombie trend that has lasted for more than 2 decades. Several of the games in the franchise capture the best and most frightening parts of the horror subgenre and were worthy of your attention, including Resident Evil Remake and Resident Evil 3, and others aren't quite zombie games but are still excellent riffs on the genre. But the remake of Resident Evil 2 might just stand above the rest. It puts you in the midst of a city tearing itself apart as it's ravaged by a horde of zombies. And while there are plenty of other creatures vying to scare the hell out of you, there's nothing quite like the realization that the entirety of the Raccoon City is shuffling towards you, arms outstretched and hungry. What other zombie games have you played and would recommend? Let me know your favourites in the comments section below. Also, I didn't mention the State of Decay series as I've never played them, so do let me know in the comments about them.